Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the official Oklahoma post game live of Oklahoma's bowl game tonight in the Cheez-It Bowl against Florida State. Again, Oklahoma was much. I think for a lot of the game they played much better, but still unable to get a victory as Florida State wins the game 35-32. Welcome into our last edition of post game live for the season. If you don't know me, my name is Jason Ray, coming to you live each and every week, following Oklahoma's games throughout the year, pregame, postgame, and then weekday coverage as well. Like I said, if you're not following me, make sure you do follow me on Twitter at Jason Ray. Let me get it up here on the screen for you. At Jason Ray one. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe button here. Hit that notification bell so you know when we do go live, because it is different from time to time. Typically, we will go live on Wednesdays from 11:30 to 12:30. But a little bit different through the holidays. But a lot of times we'll go live, talk about everything under the sun related to Oklahoma football, whether it's recruiting, whether it's transfer portal in the offseason, which is going to be a big topic here over the next couple of months before spring practice gets started again. But let's put a bow on this season for Oklahoma here. In the 2022-23 season. So Florida State wins the game 35-32 in a game really that Oklahoma played, I think, about as well as you would have expected Oklahoma to play, with everybody that they had that was either had already hit the transfer portal or had opted um, out of this game and was unavailable. And then you had some injuries. Oklahoma on the offensive side of the ball going in without four of your regular starters on the offensive line, and then really kind of a patchwork offensive line. And then unfortunately Jacob Sexton gets hurt really early, first series of the game, first couple of plays of the game. And then they had to go a little bit deeper than they even planned on. So let's go through, kind of start on the offensive side of the ball, and then work our way defensively, going over some stats and just kind of my synopsis on how they played. Gabriel, 14 of 24, 243 yards, the one touchdown and no interceptions. I think just about what we've seen from Gabriel this year. Nothing incredibly flashy. I think they took the ball out of his hands a lot in the second half. Maybe not necessarily due to how he played, but more so just about their ability to just kind of drop back and pass, as because Florida State was getting after Oklahoma's offensive line, particularly there in the second half. Um, but I think one of the things that you saw is the youth movement in Oklahoma's backfield without Eric Gray. Javante Barnes and Gavin Sawchuk got a majority of the carries, 42 of the 60 carries overall for Oklahoma. Javante Barnes, 27 carries for 108 yards, one touchdown there late in the game. Gavin Sawchuk, 15 carries for 100 yards and a touchdown, and had another one called back because of a Savion Bird holding penalty in the red zone earlier in the second half. So both of those kids ran the ball extremely well. And I think you've got to be really excited about what this running back room looks like next year, with particularly, you've got Gavin Sawchuk, Javante Barnes, and then Marcus Major as well. You've got some other folks, but those are the three guys that you look at coming into the season, that are going to be your better ball players from a running back perspective. Then when you look at the receiving, Marvin Mims, two catches for 77 yards. Jalil Farouk, 4 for 59. In the touchdown that he had early in the game. Braden Willis, 4 for 58. Drake Stoops, 2 for 27. LV Bunkley Shelton got a catch, 1 for 14 yards. And so, again, some of the youth there that you're excited about if you're an Oklahoma fan. Jalil Farouk played really well. Has really kind of come on as a really good receiver for Oklahoma. But there's a couple of other ones that really didn't get a whole lot of time. So I think now you're awaiting the decision from Marvin Mims. Does he end up going pro, or staying here? I've heard a couple of different things. I think it's probably 50-50 at this point. I've heard some leaning towards actually coming back based on the draft grade that he got. So we'll see. That's going to be a big benefit to Oklahoma's receiving core if he's able to come back with some youngsters like Jaden Gibson, Nick Anderson, that might have an opportunity to play a little bit more. Gavin Freeman as well, and then also with the news of Drake Stoops coming back, you've got a pretty good looking receiving core coming back next year. And then obviously Dylan Gabriel is still up in the air whether or not he will come back. At times I've defended him. At times, I've got on him a little bit. I don't think, and it'll be interesting if he does come back, what that quarterback competition looks like between him and Jackson Arnold. But from some of the things I've heard, wouldn't really be surprised either way. Wouldn't be surprised if he comes back, but obviously wouldn't be surprised if he went ahead and left as well. So we'll see. We'll see how that materializes. Not sure that he is the guy that would be able to put Oklahoma back where they want to be offensively, and just really in terms of being an elite quarterback. I think he's a good, decent, serviceable quarterback, but I don't know if he's the guy that's really QB1 for the University of Oklahoma, if he's in that mold. And he's certainly not in the mold of a Baker Mayfield or a Kyler Murray or Jalen Hurts for that matter. But um, you know, what does that look like for the future of the quarterback position with Jackson Arnold coming in, and who knows what that quarterback room will look like come spring and certainly fall next year as well. So offensively, I think like I said, with everybody missing, patchwork offensive line, I think putting 32 points on the board, and then having an opportunity for some more, miss a field goal, obviously, and then just some situations that happened to turn the ball over there when Oklahoma was driving. Just a bad luck play against Gavin Sawchuk there, but really got to be excited about the running backs. I think that's the big takeaway for me on the offensive side of the ball. The running game was really good, considering 253 yards on the ground for the game for Oklahoma was really really solid. Then moving over to the defensive side of the ball, Oklahoma, I think for a good 2.5 quarters, Oklahoma played pretty well on the defensive side of the ball. I think a couple of the guys that Jeffrey Johnson played really, really well from the defensive line perspective. Really kind of showed up more than he showed up all year. To be honest, just across the board. Maybe played a little bit more in terms of the number of snaps that he's played this year, but but certainly, you know, certainly played better. Isaiah Coe, another guy that played really well from his defensive tackle position. And then when you look at the linebacker, Danny Stutzman was everywhere, all over the field. He had probably his best game as an Oklahoma Sooner. I was trying to look for his stats right here. I don't know that I have them, but was trying to find out exactly how many tackles he had. I would venture to say he had somewhere between 15, 17, 18 tackles. He was just everywhere. And then Billy Bowman played pretty decent from a secondary perspective. Woody Washington had a couple of plays, but other than that, it was really up and down. Um, gave up 418 yards to probably the best quarterback he's that Oklahoma has faced this year, in Jordan Travis, and really I would say more of probably the best team that Oklahoma has faced all year. So they held up pretty well for 2.5 quarters, and then Oklahoma, just wasn't, just from a depth perspective, from a talent perspective, where they're at right now with everything going on. They did not, um, they did not really just have what it takes to to finish this game against a really, really good team. And so, like I said, lots of takeaways. I think Oklahoma played a lot better in this game than even I anticipated them playing. Down to the wire against a really good Florida State team, who a team is probably going to be primed for a run at an ACC title game and maybe an outside playoff contender for 2023. So yeah, like I said, it's a disappointing end to the season, going 6-7. I don't think it's anyone in their wildest imagination would have assumed that this team would have went 6-7 this year. But with that, let's bring your comments, questions, concerns, reactions to individual, unit, overall team. What are some things that you're looking for next year? What are some things that any question that you guys have about the portal? Oklahoma is going to continue to be extremely, extremely aggressive in the portal. I think don't be surprised to see Oklahoma add outside of who they've already added, including Trace Ford in the most recently. Um, in the most recent portal edition, probably another 13 to 15 guys um, will be added. So let's get to your comments. Let's see. Really like what Salchuk showed. He was very under the radar freshman player. Yeah, he'll be the 1-2 punch um with Javante Barnes. I think the one thing that you look for Javante Barnes is, he has a little bit of problems. The first guys always seems to get him down, which is not necessarily anything um, you know, it's not unique for a true freshman. I think he'll grow into that, his ability to make people miss, without a doubt as the season goes on. Suitor thrown. Oh, you played hard. Penalties at bad times. Yeah, I think the Sexton thing is really, really unfortunate. That hurt big time. But I think I thought you saw some aggression on both sides of the ball, some attitude that they hadn't played with for large part of the year, without a doubt. Um, 2 and 25 at running back. I think 27 is what you mean. Need a pass rush in the secondary next year. I think agree with you on the pass rush and secondary. But I think Oklahoma is going to get a lot better at the defensive end position through the portal and through this recruiting cycle. There's a lot of improvement that's going to be made around the defensive line overall. Within, I think that's one area that they're um, trying to figure out how to get a little bit better, just how to get a lot better quickly. So, um, yeah, without a doubt. Yep, I agree, Jimmy. I don't think, you know, I think Gabriel's a great kid. He was a good, solid player at UCF. I just don't think, this season's kind of shown that he's a good, solid quarterback who's got, decent stats. I think he ended the season now with 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. But I think he has played. He's shown that he's not a guy that's going to be able to win games for you. He's probably not going to lose a whole lot of games for you, but he's not going to be a guy that's going to be a difference maker. And that's what you got to have at the quarterback position. Really, if you're not going to have that at the quarterback position, you've got to be extremely solid at both lines of scrimmage. You've got to have a great supporting cast. When you think of someone like a team like Michigan, um, that's not JJ McCarthy. He's not the guy that's going to wow you, but they are extremely physical in the offensive line. Got great running backs, got really solid receivers, and a really solid defense to kind of allow him to play that way. So I agree with you overall. Hi Terry. Was really wanting to see Gibson. It was good to see Nick Anderson get in a play or two. Yeah, I'm with you. I thought we might see a little bit more of Gibson. I think if the game would have gotten a little bit out of hand, we could have possibly saw him a little bit more. Um, but yeah, absolutely. I think those are two guys that you're going to really kind of count on a little bit to be a little bit more of a contributors next year for Oklahoma at the wide receiver position in Gibson and Anderson. Todd Kennedy, thanks for joining. Most encouraging loss I've seen from a Sooner team. It's easy to pick on this and that, but got to be excited. Running back, the youth looked awesome, and the buy-in culture is swinging. I think that's the biggest takeaway, Todd, for me was really just kind of when you look at it. I think a part of the frustration with this team has been some of the older kids really not completely buying into the culture, really just kind of being okay with being okay. And so I think as you mentioned, kind of the youth movement, some of these younger kids getting more of an opportunity, kind of showing what they're about. Now, this isn't, when you think of running back, this isn't indicative of Eric Gray. I think more so on a lot of the kids on the defensive side of the ball that have just been okay with being average, and so I think that that buy-in and that culture is going to start swinging in the positive direction. With BV getting a lot of his guys in here in this recruiting class, hopefully that continues to kind of change what that culture looks like. Hey, Sooner will be better close games next year. We have a lot more depth. Agreed. Um, not Ron Brown. Is number 25 coming back again next year? Please, please no. And just for everybody, he's talking about Justin Broyles again. Killed us again. Overall, he just again he's too small. I mean, not good enough to play at this level. So Chuck Barnes agreed. Yep. Um, yeah, so I think they will. Sorry, I forgot to put the other one. If DG leaves, would they get a QB? I think they're looking to. uh, The answer is yes. Sooner. I mean, I think they will. If DG decides to leave, they will definitely look in the portal for someone else. I think they're probably looking in the portal for depth, anyways. With who Oklahoma has lost from a quarterback, they've lost a couple of quarterbacks already. Um, so I think they're looking in the portal, but they might look for a couple of guys if that's the case. Um, need OL secondary help badly. I think Oklahoma has addressed a ton of secondary help in this recruiting class. When you look at Makari Vickers, when you look at Peyton Bowen, when you look at Jacoby Johnson, when you're looking at Josiah Wagner, tons of guys that Oklahoma has done a really good job at getting some talent in, and so the infusion of talent. And now you look at a couple of guys like a Woody Washington, does he come back? CJ Colvin, does he come back? Things like that. Um, yes, Salchuk is a track guy. In high school, he was. Um, I would say there's a better chance that he does not start at quarterback than he does next year. That's just my gut, at least for the entire year. I would lean towards the fact that he won't be here next year. Now he may very well be. That's just my lean right now. We'll see what happens. If he comes back, he'll absolutely be there in the competition with Jackson Arnold. But Jackson Arnold's at a different level than what DG is, even with the experience. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. It might be one of those situations if he does come back where DG's the starter for the first portion of the year, and then it's by halfway through the season, Jackson Arnold kind of overtakes him. Small farm. Thanks for being here. Proud of the effort tonight. Secondary is still concerning. We need to get bigger and better cover guys. Porous at times this year. We gave up too many plays. Yeah, and I think the secondary, the issues with the secondary is partially on the defensive line as well. If you're able to get some pressure on the quarterback, then your secondary doesn't necessarily have to cover as long. So it's complementary from a defensive line to a secondary. But certainly agree with um, with your premise here. Stutzman yet again with some nice tackles on running backs, but still cannot cover the middle. Plain and simple. This was one of his better games, without a doubt. Let's see. Watching SEC games this year, big difference. OU needs to change before they get there. Is the Yep, you're absolutely right. And like I said, I think just be patient for those that are wanting some guys on the defensive line. They've already addressed, quite a couple of situations with Jacob Lacey and Trace Ford. They're going to continue to go hot and heavy on the defensive line. Trust me. Let's see. Yeah, we saw some young kids play. Gentry Williams played a little bit on defense. There was a decent amount of young kids that got to play. Um, oh yeah, I'd mentioned I'd forgot the McCullough brothers. Deshaun is going to be he's kind of an edge cheetah guy, but Day's going to be he's a safety without a doubt. See, expect the defense to improve dramatically next season. Venables will make the improvements. Offensively, QB needs time to execute plays. Overall, I thought it was a good game against a good team. Thanks for the comments. Yeah, I think there's going to be dramatic improvement next year on the defense. I would, without a doubt, um, I would say Sooner Ford and Lacey. Definitely good gets. Um, Then we're supposed to get beat, and if not for a missed field goal and or an unfortunate fumble. Then, yep, I agree, Tim. And so that's why you have to be very happy um, with the way Oklahoma played in this game is because they played a team that was incredibly talented and played them. You could even make the argument that they outplayed them for a majority of the game. Um, Yeah, I agree, and I think, like I said, it's part of what we're gonna see next year is just a big infusion of talent. Like I said, Oklahoma's got 25 kids that they've signed in the recruiting cycle, and then you've got I think Oklahoma's got what 5 or 6 guys. I wouldn't be surprised to see them get somewhere between 20 to 22 overall portal players. Really heavy defensive line. There's a couple of offensive linemen they're going after, especially if Sexton's injury ends up being, long a longer term injury, and then wide receivers, kind of depending on what Marvin Mims does. Marvin Mims goes, then certainly I think Oklahoma's going to be in the market for an experienced wide receiver. But I think defensive line and wide receiver probably along with offensive line. Those are the three position groups to be watching out for in terms of where Oklahoma is going to look at the biggest area from a portal perspective. They won't go next year, and the excuse will be, oh well, the whole team. So much positivity in here tonight. So yeah, any other questions that anyone has? If not, we'll just kind of we'll shut this down for tonight, and then we'll talk again next week as we kind of obviously exit the game, the actual season, and then um, obviously start moving more towards the the off season. Obviously, when you look at transfer portal, guys are coming back. That'll be the biggest news and impact without a doubt. Thanks everybody for joining. Thanks everybody for being part of this all year. Sorry it was a little bit later than typical after a game tonight, but make sure you continue to join us. And throughout the week, and who knows, we may end up having a softball, an Oklahoma softball page here as well, as softball season is about to kick off here in about a little bit over a month from now. February 9th, I believe, is the first softball game, so we may have some discussions on that as we kind of enter into the off season. So one last question here. I've not heard a whole lot about Roof being replaced as of late. I think he will, unless something else happens, I think he'll continue to be where he's at. But we'll um, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. You never know. There could be some staff changes here after these last games, but we'll keep an eye on that to watch out. Thanks everybody for, like I said, thanks everybody for joining. Everybody have a wonderful evening. Have a happy new year, and God bless.